up here. Where's Mike? Mike Kelly?
First of all, I want to do that about the Japanese garden.
Go ahead. Yeah, Mike has something coming up.
One of our other clubs.
Go in front.
No. One of our other clubs. One of our other clubs, Sansui Kai from the San Fernando Valley. We worked out a deal with the Japanese garden. It's a water reclamation area in the middle of the San Fernando Valley. It's a beautiful Japanese garden. And we've worked it out with them that we would help maintain what's left of their collection, help them build a collection, and in turn have our meetings there. It's just a beautiful environment. And part of the deal was we would have 2 shows a year at the garden and allow people in. Now they sprung it on me about 2 weeks ago. They want to do one November 10th. So what we're doing is we're going to have a show November 10th on a Sunday only. We're just going to be like 10 or 12 trees. We haven't really figured all those details out yet because they have a board and they've got to talk it over and they got to talk to me and Daniel and back and forth. So anyway, we're inviting you guys to, if you're interested in driving to the middle of the San Fernando Valley on November 10th, we're also, it should be free of charge. We're working on those details now. But we're also going to have part 2 of the Jim Pelling Memorial Sale will be there also. I'm going to ask Shirley to send some more information out on when we know. So that's all I know about that. Any other questions? Okay, that's the demo. Thank you very much.
Okay, number thing. This is going to be our special tonight.
I was going to spring on. I'm surprised on.
Oh, well.
So that's okay.
Okay. So you want to talk about this, Ray?
Well, this is a Chinese elm that I started from cutting. Way back when I started, probably about 1990 or so. Grew it in the ground for 3 or 4 years and dug it up and eventually gave it to my mom, and so she continued working on it. Since then, this pot was purchased from Kathy Bowman at probably one of the second or third sale that she had when she was still holding it at her house. So this is an old Kathy Bowman. My mom wasn't really capable of repotting for years, so I repotted it and gave in June some Scoria Akadama mix, but there's still a lot of old soil in there. I just couldn't get it all out last year. So I probably wouldn't touch it again this year because it's still pretty weak, but within the next few years, probably should work on that, try to get the rest of the old soil that's right up by the root ball.
Is that a Catlin one?
Yeah.
Thank you, Rick. Very nice. Yeah, so that's our special, Rick. Because we don't have a special tonight because we're doing this. Okay, Mike, sorry.
Okay. All the demos we usually have as clubs to help you find the perfect tree for the perfect pot, if there's such a thing. Tonight we want to try to get you to explain to you how to find the perfect tree, the perfect pot, and how to match it to the perfect stand. There's several people that have bought trees, and everybody's going to help, and we're going to figure out which stand works best, color, size, style, masculine, feminine, so on and so forth. Okay, any questions? Okay.
So who's Ken?
This guy, Ken Bross. My barefoot brother. So, Ken Bross has been a stand maker for how many years? 4 years. He was a special ed instructor, and after he retired, he needed something to do, and he started making these stands for regular shows, and then
Started making it for myself,
yeah.
but I didn't need this many stands.
So you're part of the San Diego Club?
Yeah.
Okay. Ken?
All right. So to introduce us, the way it started is I was talking to somebody about you ought to tell people how you make stands. So I thought about, okay, I could show you how it's put together and how I make it and how I cut the wood. But when I thought about that, that's going to take about 15 minutes. And so that isn't a good note. So then Mike and I started talking, and it came into something more that's going to be the rest of the show, or the rest of the demo. So I'll go into this first, which is just basically give people an idea. Because as the guy that I was talking to said, that you just don't go down to Home Depot and pick up some pine and start making a stand. So just to go over it really quickly, I'll start with pieces of wood. Usually they're a lot larger than this. The board's about that wide, maybe 6, 7, 8 feet long. Anybody that's done hardwood working knows what that like. It's usually about this thick. These are the raw wood. So then, to go through it quickly, I just start with pieces of wood, basically the same thickness, okay? Cut them to about the size I need. The next step is then I need to cut these thinner to become the frame. And I usually make, with most of my stands, what I call a panel frame. So there's a panel in the middle and the frame around it. There's a few that aren't like that, but that's pretty rare. So you have to plane it down, which my neighbors hate because it's the loudest part of the whole job. Really loud. And then I gotta start making things individually. So I router out the inside, so it becomes a tongue and groove, and you'll see that in a second. This becomes the edge. And it took me a while to figure out how to make these and make them the same, because when you have two in front and two on the side, they've got to be identical. If they're a little bit off, it shows. So I started figuring out, well, if I make a piece that's a little wider, and then so I cut it like this, I grind it down and get it smooth the way I want it, and then I can cut off one end and another end, and I end up with two that are exactly the same. And then I make two that are exactly the same for the short one. So, and same thing for the leg. This is two legs. So I make the leg, I carve it a little bit, get whatever shape I want, and then I can cut it in half, and now I know they're identical. And I make two of these, so then all four legs are gonna be identical. Making things identical is probably because this is all self-taught. I've never had any lessons woodworking. I sort of did trial and error, so there's a lot of stands I sort of threw away because they didn't come out. What I finally end up with is all these separate pieces that come apart. What I tell people is, I play with Legos. It's just that I make my own Lego parts. So, and since they're not machined like the Legos are, every piece is different. So I've got to make sure that I mark them. So in this case, it's got 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dots, 4 dots. And then these have the same 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot, 4 dots, so that if I put them in the wrong spot, these won't quite fit. So everything has to fit. Now, once it's all together, you don't have to worry about that. But just to show you how it's done. And I tell people, if you want to mess with it, take it apart and you get to try to build it yourself. So, and to do it real quickly, this is really.
You want Mike to help you?
He doesn't want to help.
7-2 Dodgers.
Yeah.
Thanks for paying attention.
So you said self-taught, so what was the first time you took the wood in your hands?
Oh, I've played, all of us has played with wood in our lives, you know, we've cut wood and
Yeah, it
sanded
probably
it.
took 10 years or 20 years to get to this point.
Well, it takes the machine, you gotta have the tools. Now, my background in this kind of stuff, I worked in sheet metal, precision sheet metal, where we worked, I built things with sheet metal down to like 10 thousandths, 30 thousandths of an inch. So working off of blueprints, I'm pretty good at figuring out angles. You have to know how to make your tools very accurate. So they cut a 45, they cut 90 degrees. They can't be off by even half a degree. If they're off by a little bit, it starts to build up. Small stands don't really make a difference as much. Big stands, it starts to work against you. And I also found out you don't make all the parts and then glue everything together. You make all the parts and then you do what I call a dry run, because I want to make sure everything fits. And if I do it just right, I can hold it together and look at it and say, yeah, that looks like about the right length. Now this one, the legs are still need to be cut, because once you make it, the lengths of the legs, so it's going to rock a little bit. So I want to get it glued together, put together, and then I will cut the legs down to size. That way I make sure it's flat and it doesn't rock. And what I end up with is something like this. The only difference on this one is all of my stands, except for very few of them, like these, I don't do a gloss coat. I do what's called an oil finish, which is this stuff. Howard's Feed and Wax. It's an orange oil and beeswax. Great stuff. My reasoning behind that is small stands, not as much. Bigger stands, you're putting a big tree on it. You're inevitably going to scratch that top. you're just going to do it. If you have this kind of finish, it's very hard to sand that back down, get it all cleaned up, refinish it, and blend it so that that doesn't show. When I use this kind of finish, this oil finish, I can sand it down to raw wood, scrape, get the scratch out of the way, oil it back up, and you'll never notice the difference. So it's a very easy fix. And I tell people, you're going to get a scratch on your stand. So I might as well make it so it's easy for you to fix without having to worry about it. So with that said, that's my demo. But now, with my demo, this is really what the demo becomes now, is what I have found is I make custom stands, and that's what I wanted to make at the beginning. I just wanted to make them, people come and say, I want a stand, and I'd say, what kind, what size, I'll make it for you. Most people will say, I don't know. Well, what shape, how big is it, how tall do you want it, what kind of wood do you want? I don't know. So I started thinking, what I need you all to do, and this is where you're all now involved in this. I'm not teaching this, I'm just going to show you things and have you decide, sort of like a piece of art. Do you like it? Do you not like it? So we'll put different trees on different stands, and as a group we can make a decision on, does this look good with this stand? Both in color of the wood, shape of the legs, tallness, all the different things that go along. So it's just matching a tree with a stand, so it helps me when I ask you what kind of stand you want, you'll know what to say.
I have a question. That dark, almost ebony kind of stain, is that just because of stain, or is that because of the wood?
All of this is the raw wood. It's plain wood. It gets a little darker in the way that this does. It gets a little darker when I put the oil on it, but it is all just the way the wood works.
So what kind of wood is that dark?
I wish you wouldn't have asked me. This one piece, I got a,
Make it up.
I don't know, because I tried to talk to people about what it could be. It's a beautiful wood, but somebody offered me some wood because a guy in Del Mar passed away a while back, and he had a bunch of wood, and I've had a few of these offers lately. And so I got a piece of wood that was about that wide and about 7 feet long. And it was
Del Mar
beautiful,
pine.
dark black wood.
Del Mar pine.
Del Mar pine.
There you go.
And so I made one stand out of it, and the worst part is this piece just broke. And all my shit. I can fix it, but I don't want it to get any worse, so I taped it together, so don't notice that side. But it's a beautiful wood. It's really nice. It's not a real hardwood, but I wish I had more. I've just never seen any wood like it. It's a black wood, pretty much black wood of its own, and when it's raw wood.
Ebony's kind of like that.
Ebony's really hard. This is not ebony. It's actually pretty soft compared to some of these woods. I work with granadillo, which is not a true rosewood, but it's called Mexican rosewood.
How about persimmon?
Never worked with persimmon. I usually don't work with lighter colored woods. I don't know what color persimmon wood is, but a lot of woods.
The Diospirus, the Diospirus is the different species, the different kinds, they're all dark.
Never worked with it, so I can't say anything about persimmon wood. But the wood, this, like I said, this is a little softer. It worked a little easier than some woods. This wood is really hard and it chips easy, so you've got to be a little bit more careful. Things like walnut is sort of soft for being a hardwood. It's really not that hard. It's a little easier to work with. But with that said, and I can explain the different stands and what they're made of if you have questions, but more than anything now, we're going to just start
Brent has a
bringing
question.
trees
Just
over.
one quick question.
Oh, yes.
So I see certain design elements that you pulled through a lot of your work. I'm seeing a lot of particular things, but everything looks like it's one of a kind. Nothing is, you don't have a jig that you're working in
No,
mass producing.
no,
them.
everyone's,
So each one of them is a one of a kind piece.
even if I make the same ones,
I mean, there's some similarities, but as far as they go, each one is made, you make one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing.
I can, because the planer is so loud, I try to plane about 4 tops at once, so I don't have to wake up my neighbors or upset them. But I try not to do too many at once, because once you get too many different pieces going, you've got the legs for some, and the crossbars for some, and the frame for some, I start getting really mixed up. So I usually just make one at a time. But yeah, all these, I am not a designer. I am not an artist at all. I don't have any
That's not
idea
true.
how to make them. I steal people's ideas. I steal them off.
I am an artist.
Well, good, you and I can get together.
And that they're absolutely wrong. And you are 100% factually incorrect when you say you're not an artist.
Please don't do that because you'll charge more.
Price
It's
is
a
just
it's a non-artist demonstration. If you do that, forget it. The prices are gonna go up. It's like, oh man.
So-
Oh, by the way, prices, if anybody orders a stand tonight, Ken is gonna give $25.
It keeps going up.
I know.
20%. 20% of the
20%
proceeds
back to the club.
are gonna go back to the club. Unfortunately, he can't sell any tonight because he's bringing all the stock up to Northern California. But on that note, because we have, this is our third demo and this is the most trees anybody's ever bought. Is there anybody particular that is interested in ordering a stand who bought a tree? Okay, let's start with, what tree would you put? Let's get a tree right here.
And what we do is just put it on different stands, and it starts to become in fact, in the last meeting, I thought it was really interesting because we put it on a stand, not a lot said, put it on another stand, not a lot said, we put it on another stand, everybody goes, ooh. So that's what we're looking for, is that ooh factor where all of you decide, this looks like the right stand for it. Let's move this down.
That's backwards.
Backwards. So, is this a good stand for this tree, for this pot, for this size of tree? Too small? What about the height?
It's too much in the same proportion as the tree.
Okay.
So I've always heard that you want the height of the stand to kind of match, not be exactly the same as the height of the tree.
Yes, there are a few things. I wrote something out so you could take a copy if you want. The rule of thumb that I've heard is I usually try to make it so there's about an inch in the panel, not counting the frame, an inch in the panel on each side of the pot, front, back, and sides. So if your pot is 13 by 8, then I would make the panel 15 by 10. That means then I have the frame, that's gonna make it another inch, so that's gonna be 18 by, or 17 by 12. So we can work up by looking at the pot. But that changes too, and it doesn't necessarily match. It can be a little bit bigger. There are times where you put the tree on a stand like this, and it just gets swallowed up. So there's a limitation, obviously. Though I have seen stands or trees on stands like that it's much bigger than the tree itself.
How about that one in the middle? I think that's the best.
That's exactly what I want to hear.
That's it. That's the basically perfect.
How about the color? Does the color works off the pot a little bit better too. So that's something to think about, is there's different colors. There's dark woods, there's brown woods. This is sapele, it's sort of an orangish color. This is called Paduke, it's really red. Okay, yeah.
I see the accent plants on little tables. When would that be appropriate, in what format would those be appropriate in setups? Or is it just more, like a cascade would go well with that, or where would those go?
I made these for fun because I had a piece of wood that was that big. So they have nothing to do with the setup. Mike just liked them because he had little tiny butts to go with them. But yeah, it was asked about, are we gonna do a setup, a display? This isn't about the display, so it's not having an accent plant with it and all that part. This is just matching a tree with a stand. Like I said, this is sort of helping me help you. So if you ever order a stand, I can ask you the question, what do you want? now you can sort of say, well, I remember, I'd like that one with those kind of, I know, I have somebody down in the San Diego Club who worked with Dave Niddle, and what she would do is send him about 5 pictures of 5 different stands. I like the legs of this stand, I like the way the crossbars on this stand, I like this part. Can you put all that together in one stand? Which makes a real challenge for him. I don't know if I want to do that. But that's sort of like what I'm looking for. You might like this and say, I like that stand, but I need it a little taller and a little bit bigger. Or I like it with fewer dowels in it. Something along that line. So it just gives you an idea of the variation of what I can do and what I can make. And then you sort of say, can we adjust this? Make it taller, make it shorter. And what Michael Roberts was asking, the other thing, and when I first started, I made a lot of stands like this, short stands 2 or 3 inches tall. In the last couple of years, it seems that the tendency is now to get taller stands with higher legs, because what the idea, we don't want you doing this, looking at the tree. We're trying to lift the tree up so that the middle of the tree is about eye level. Now that becomes an issue because different shows have tables at different heights. So it depends on how high the table is. If you're 6'8", that's not going to work for anybody. So it's still a little flexible, but that's the idea. We're trying to lift the tree up so you don't have to go down underneath it. Because most people like to look at some of these trees, especially trees that are like this, and you want to see the branching in it. So it becomes something where I'm trying to make them a little taller. You can see some of these now I've made a lot taller than when I first started. And it meant to lift the tree up. Some people like it, like in art. Some people don't.
Japanese tokonoma is a floor.
Yeah.
There it's even more relevant knowing the tall.
Yeah, if it's a dense sort of stocky tree like this, it's gonna be different than if it's a long, tall tree, a big, tall, choke-on tree. So it's still, here's what I tell people. It doesn't matter what anybody in this room thinks, you have to like your tree with your stand. That's all that matters. If nobody else likes it, but you do, that's okay. It's supposed to be something you enjoy having. So I want each of you to decide what you like. And almost always when we did this demo in other clubs, there were some people that would like it and some people who would not. They would say, oh, that's great. Well, no, I don't like the red. Or I think it's too tall. Other people would not like it, and everybody else said they did like it. You're either going to have a lot of differences in that way. So, with that said, that's the stand for this tree.
I have a question. I've seen some trees on the stand sideways, not in the middle, because the tree has a movement. And it drives me crazy when I see it. I believe always should be exactly in the middle. What do you think?
It's art. You know, it depends on what, every tree is going to be different. Every tree is going to match with the stand differently. So it might work depending on if it flows. You put it off to the side, it might look, if you put it in the middle and everything's coming out over here and it's not a cascade, it might look out of balance. So you have to put a little off center. I don't know. How about this? Live edge, does that work with that kind of stand or that kind of tree? So there's variations, and now these are sort of the same. This is a sort of what I would consider a rare stand, because getting live edge like this is really hard. I was lucky I found a piece that had a split right down the middle, and so I had about 4 feet on each side of the split of live edge. And most hardwood stores or hardwood lumber yards, they like the clean edges. You don't find a lot of live edge, especially live edge like this. So when I made this, it worked out perfect. Everything went together. To be able to duplicate it, not gonna be so easy, just because I can't find the wood again. I can find a lot of walnut, but nothing with that kind of live edge. But does this tree look good with this stand?
It's not too
It's a
small.
little small though.
A little small.
Stand and pot are about the same color, and the
Yeah.
pot itself is too small for the pot.
I'm looking down on it. you can see that it's a little tight in there. Now in this one, just because of the way the live edge came out, I usually make a channel to separate the frame from the panel. This one I didn't make a channel, so it makes it a little easier to fit in there. It doesn't look like it's inside or hanging outside the frame, so to speak. Not as much as it would if this was the same size. So let's try a different tree. Because what we're trying to do is everybody who bought a tree, I want you to
We'll go to smaller, let's,
smaller.
maintain them, okay, this is good.
So join is the same thing. Now, as far as the pot goes on that stand, that's about the right size. Is that the right stand for that kind of tree? No comments?
You know, tell all this comparison.
Because this is for you all to decide what you think. What's the consensus? Does that work?
The stand on the right,
Fine.
one more over to the left, no, the left. My right.
Your right, my left.
Correct.
How does that work? So now you've got a lot of movement in the tree. You've got curved legs. Does that help it? Does it hurt it?
It's too much.
Too much.
Too much?
Too much curving.
Like, what about one of
I would
those
like
tall?
straight edges.
You mean the shogun? That's more of a multi-tree display.
No, the ones on top of the box.
I don't think it'll fit. So cascade stand? It's a little big for it, but other than that,
Also, remember when you're viewing them in a show, you're not sitting down.
yeah, that was something
So
I.
you might wanna stand up to get a better perspective, cause you don't sit down at a show and watch them.
Yeah, so you're seeing it all
'Cause there's
at
no chairs.
almost table level instead of standing level, which is where you have to have about 2 feet to where your
This is also
perspective is right now.
a style that looked very good on just a wood slab.
Yeah.
There you go. Probably most appropriate.
You wanna get a slab
Yeah.
up?
Let me see the slab, yeah.
It might look good on a root stand too.
The root stand, yeah.
We don't have a room slab.
We don't have a root stand.
I tried to do carving, I'm not good at carving. I'm trying to do those root stands out of a piece of wood, it's really a lot harder than it looks.
Stand was made by,
Too thin.
Too small.
yeah,
A little thicker.
It's a little tall and thicker, but
alright,
Okay, well, let's go to different trees.
okay. He doesn't make cheetahs. Alright, let's go. Alright, how about something,
How about that one, that stand there behind you?
huh? Or look for
that,
trees.
for the
Nah,
one that you just
we've moved on.
Oh, that's not the stand.
I stole your legs.
I see, you stole my idea.
Yeah, I thought it was a great idea, so it worked with everything.
That was good.
Dude, I thought that was yours.
Does that work? Too big, too small, too short, too tall? Not too tall.
Bigger stand.
Bigger stand?
There's too much going on with the table.
That's a little more appropriate.
It's still too delicate.
This is very thin, so it probably would not work with this tree, but it's taller.
Yeah.
Almost too spindly looking for that.
That's,
that heavy.
something you think of legs. Something you think of legs.
Yeah,
Because it just looks like
It's gonna fall.
defying gravity.
yeah, it's sort of a giraffe looking type of thing.
Corner drums jam.
So I make these, the bottom comes off, I don't wanna take it off because it's really hard to get back on. But actually, if you buy it that way, you get two stands in one, because it really looks different without the frame on it.
Oh, nice.
That's lovely.
That's how it's.
Again, the movement of the tree,
Expensive.
You buy it, you break it, you buy it.
Don't break the stand.
Nice.
So in that case, the curved legs with the movement of the tree, does that work?
Yes.
A little better?
Can I see it on that one? I know it's small, but can I?
That's the idea.
This is one that if you had more substantial rail and more substantial legs, it would do better with the heavier pot.
Right.
Heavier foliage mass. And most of yours are very lightweight in that regard.
So if I, this is probably a little too big, but much more substantial legs.
Yeah.
Now, this is a case where it's gonna swallow the pot. That gives you the idea of the heavier legs.
But I can imagine that stand
It's a short.
half again its size and.
Well, this is what we did on the last one, which I thought was a good idea.
Oh,
There you go.
Just ignore the last part of the stand,
we can't see it anyway.
That's a crazy idea.
but it gives you that visual idea. So it's, the thicker legs work a little bit better.
Yeah.
The same thing with this one. That has not very thread. You want to move a couple of these so I can put this in here.
That's nice.
Same situation, turn it that way. Still a little big for it, but the legs are a little different, they're more straight, that's more flare. Which one works better?
Yeah, I like the height.
How many people like this one?
Height, I like the height, but it's too.
Okay, how many people like this one? Yeah. So- Now, what about this? Is it the wood? Is it the height?
The height and the width, for sure.
Because the color of the wood,
I don't like the color.
just to give you some idea, this wood and this wood are the same wood. And until I oil it, I really don't know how it's gonna turn out, because when it's raw wood, and you put it all away. It all about looks the same, and if I sand it down, it sort of looks all the same, sort of a pinkish, reddish color. You put the oil and it gets really dark, sometimes it turns a little bit more. So it's sort of hard for me to predict, on certain woods at least, what's the end result is going to be. I've had people say, I want one that without I want walnut, but I want it really dark. I'll do my best, but sometimes it just doesn't come out as dark as you might like it, and I can't control it. Yeah.
Do you want the stand to match the bark color?
I don't know.
Can I see it on that one? That's. What?
See, I think there's so much variety and so many opinions in this, it's what you want and what you think would be the best for your tree.
I like this, yeah, I like that better.
You like this color better? or you
No,
like
that.
dark? Now, also, if this was in a different color pot,
Yeah, that's a crap pot.
that might change things as well. So having something that's in a finished pot, that's really your show pot, rather than more of a growing pot, that might make it look a little different too, how it matches the stand. Just out of curiosity, since you like dark. That one.
That's nice.
Now here's, this is something I'd like to know. This is more of a gloss finish. I use the polyurethane. I usually don't use it. A lot of the reason is because it's sort of hard to do with the frame in there, and it's really hard when you have all these little tiny faces with all these different parts that you have to get. Do you like the glossiness, the shininess of it?
Yeah, I like.
I see some people saying yes, I see some people saying no, as opposed to more the matte finish.
I think it also would depend on the tree.
Yeah, if you had, I think if you had a gloss finish with a ceramic pot, rather than a brown pot, an unglazed pot, I think that the shininess of this and the shininess of a glazed pot might not work well together. So there's things like that to think about. What else? Another one, different colors. Now there you get more of a comparison, or a contrast between the pot and the stand, the wood color of the stand.
What do they do in Japan?
I have no idea. Like I said, I go online, I find a design that I both like and I think I can make, and I made that. So if, I've seen some in that both David Little makes and that they have in Japan, and I was asked at the first demo, are there any stands that you see online or that you look at that you like, you can't make? And I'm like, hell yes, there's a lot of stands out there that are very complex and all these different pieces, really hard to put it all together. You have to about have 400 clamps and put it all together. I made a mini tokonoma for Peter, and trying to get that all clamped together, because in these I can clamp just the top. I can make the top, put these four around it, clamp it and glue it, and it's done. Now that's a solid piece. Now I make the legs and I make the crossbars, and then I can put those together and glue all that. So I can do it in pieces. And some of these that are even more complex, I can still do them in pieces and do it in steps. That one that I made for you, I had to clamp everything. I finally had my wife come out and had to hold one side together, because every time I put that together and then went to the other side, put the other clamps on, it fell apart. There's a lot of stands out there that are like that, and I don't know how people put these together. They must have 4 or 5 guys that are all doing this at one time, and each one's doing one corner of the stand. So there's a lot of stands I can't make just because the logistics of it. It's just too many moving parts, literally. Okay,
Let's move on, let's see the show. The show stands.
okay. This is one of those that is a little bit more complicated, but I can do it in stages, and so it's a little easier. I can make the panel, and then start figuring out how to put the rest of it together. This is sort of fun to try to figure out how to do it, so I the double beaded edge. Some of them I do see as a challenge. Some of them I look at it like, that's too much of a challenge, I don't want to try it. So, Peter, do you want to come up and help on this one? Because you have your trees and you've done this before.
First of all, when you look
Wait, are we paying you for this? Okay, go ahead.
First of all, when you look at the stand, and you see this, that means the flow is going that way. Okay? So my trees should be the other way around.
Is that for sale?
Sometimes you can put one of these, and if you don't have them, you can just put it like that. But if you're borrowing a stand, make use one of these, because
So my question for you is, why did this have to be turning this way? Why did he say it had to turn around?
Because of flow, that's on the side of the.
the flow of the tree.
The flow of the tree tells you which flow this is. The flow of the tree goes that way, so the whole stand has to go that way.
Sorry, Peter, what'd you say? I didn't catch it. What about the little slab?
If you don't have the slab, it's okay. But if you're borrowing a stand and your tree is wet, it's gonna drip, and sometimes the oil's not on there, and then it's gonna mark it.
That's the nice thing about this beeswax and orange oil. The wax in itself does fill the grain of the stand. As a matter of fact, I tried to mark a lot of these stands, and I tried to put tape on it, and the tape wouldn't stick because it's still got an oil finish. And some of these haven't been touched with oil for months, maybe even a year. So the oil stays there. It does make it not impervious to, but at least it resists watermarks.
notice the flow of that tree is going this way. And this tree is talking to down there. Now, this one here, if you have another tree, it should be down here. And needs a, kind of like a small, accent point.
Would you have a tree down here? Trees such as this or this?
No, sometimes, a cascading,
Small cascade.
outfit like this. And then, if you have a piece of, slab, kind of like these, that is almost like big, you know, to put both of them. Well, see, like, this is small. Normally I have like, big. Otherwise,
So the movement of everything, this becomes much more complicated as a stand because now the movement of the trees with each other and the interaction, the negative spaces, how much space there's here and there. You don't want these to be the same, roughly the same height. There's a lot more, again, a lot more moving parts.
and a lot of times also is that the color of the pot, I mean, every single one should be different. And at the same time, the tree, if you have a flowering tree or a fruiting tree, it looks good because that's what people looks at. Oh, what's this? Is it real? You know, and a lot of times when you look at the show, especially at the Bay Area, some of those people that are really buying for the price, they're using a very expensive pot, which is painted pots. You know, yeah, see. And sometimes the pot itself costs more than the stand.
Oh, by far.
I saw one at, a Janata show, and there was a yellow pot, and right away I told him, are you gonna leave that here? Why? That's a very expensive pot, about 1,800. And
So then I would sell him.
oh, okay, let me bring another one.
I'm just gonna-
And especially if you only have like a few trees, it's very hard to compose a showing stand, especially if you have like 5 trees. They're very strict in what you put and how you put things.
Hey, Joe?
Break time.
Break that, okay. See Ellie over here, right there now? Okay, can I get your attention, please?
No.
Okay.
Anytime, sorry.
Okay, so I start out. What do you think?
Let me know.
We're still waiting for you.
Can you put a stand on that, a little stand? Let's say that fits.
That's a little thin.
You want it thicker, a little bigger.
Probably not good enough.
Yeah, it'll be too far away. Something taller. No, actually, real stand, real stand.
I don't have it. Actually, I've been told these are the only problem with that, this and this is the same way.
We can't hear him. Thank you.
Say again?
So the only problem with this, first of all, this is sort of the same color as the wood. This is walnut, this is walnut, it all starts to merge together. You want some contrast, so maybe something like, it's a little bit. This is still about the same color. it's not big enough.
No.
But, nice color though.
Yeah, the color brings it out, and that's what I brought this up for. The color then sets off with the, actually it sets with the berries, and it contrasts with the pot. Just imagine it bigger, so you just get closer and look at it, so it looks bigger. Same with this, it's black, again, too small.
Yeah, if it's bigger.
I like the red.
Yeah, the red, this is all too dark if you put this and this together. The red sort of works. I don't have another red one that's anywhere near that size. So the best I could do would be this, and imagine it just being bigger. So now we're just talking about color of the stand with the color of everything else. Yeah, John.
What type of wood is the red stand made
It's
of?
called Paduke. It's an African wood. This is the same wood. So, again, I wanted to get some variety because I have a lot of dark wood, and I wanted to get something that looked a little bit more, stand out a little bit more. And some people, they liked what I had here, but then again, it's walnut. So I made some out of this. Again, it would be nice, I think this would work for something like that kind of pot. It really sets off, especially if there's a little bit of pink or reddish in the pot, then it sets it off really nice, so it'd be part of a shading display. So it's again, I can make this thing out of the same wood, make it bigger. I can make it the same size out of different wood. All those little criteria, all those pieces are what I want you to think about. Is I like that stand, but could you make it 2 inches bigger? I like that stand, and I like the size, but could you make it with a wood that's more light colored? Those are all the variations. I can make this stand out of any wood that I can buy.
Is that one piece?
Can you rotate that so it's the short side facing?
There we go.
Works a little bit better.
Is that one piece?
No, it's produced.
Was it one piece of wood?
Oh, it's one piece, yes.
How's it? No joints. No joints, yeah, no.
Router out the inside, drill holes, all hand part. It's fun. If I wanted to make it bigger, it starts to get not so much fun.
Not adorable.
Yes.
So you said, okay, 2 inches bigger, wider, longer. I'm not trying to think of even the word to describe it, but what if I said, I like that style, but I want it more, like stronger, deeper, robust, right? Like that one back there, but it's too dainty for the tree I wanna use it for. Can you make that more robust?
Yeah.
Is that, okay?
Yeah, I can, especially walnut. Like I said, most of the wood I get is like this, but you can get what's called 8/4 and 12/4, which is 2 inch, 3 inch, even, I think 4 inch. So I can make it out of any of that. I just don't usually get that because I don't get a lot of demand for that kind of heaviness. That's where these came from. Do you have a question?
Yes, the length of the dowels. Have you had many requests for like longer dowels? Because I've seen the Bunyor, the guy in Japan. He had the like really long dowels on his. I'm like, oh, it's interesting, but I don't see. Most of your samples are smaller.
Right. I first started making floating stands with the dowels really short. So then I decided to try to make them longer. This is about the longest I made. I don't think, as far as the mechanics of it, it would be any more difficult because it's all put together the same way. It's just, I'd like to see a picture of that to see how it looks.
It's called the floating stand.
We're talking about the color of the stand and with the pot. So like this example with this painted pot is really beautiful, like the contrast, the blue and the white and red. What about some like that yellow pot? Like that is way different from everything else up there. Like, what do you think color wise or something like that?
What I think doesn't matter.
What does anybody else think?
What you think, if you're buying the stand and you want me to make it, you have to like it. That's the whole thing about this, is I want people to start finding out what they like regardless of what the rest of the people like. Every show I've ever been to or had a tree in, There are some people that will walk right past the tree and not even give it a second look, and other people will look all around. So everything's gonna appeal to somebody. So you're not gonna have to worry about, nobody's going to like that setup. Somebody's going to like it. But the real question is, are you happy with it? So if, and I do know a guy that has one of those potato plants that has the purple flowers in it,
Yeah.
and he has it in a yellow pot, really sets it off well, and he likes it to be in a more bright colored stand. So, but that's his choice.
What about something like that, semi-cascading on a stand like that?
I think it works because we've got this all flowing this way. Now, the question comes up, and you can answer this as much as I could, should this be another tree down here, or should this be an accent plant down here?
It should be just an accent plant.
That's what I think.
Like what you guys did before.
I'm into this casing stone right there.
Oh, that's nice.
That's the right way.
There's a rock.
It's a stone.
It's a stone.
A rock you get in a garden. It's a stone you pay a lot of money for. You know what the difference between a rock and a stone? About $500.
It's the same as soil and dirt.
Nice rock.
I paid rock price for it.
Yeah, I like that rock. Very little, I like the rock.
Did you make this the stand for this stuff, or?
I've tried to make dices for rocks, they're not as easy as they look. Again, that starts to get in the carving, and
That's not what you
I know some guy that does it, and the way he has it is he has a router set up that mirrors. So what he does is he takes the rock and puts it in a, what's that, auto?
CNC?
No, what they use for.
Mondo.
Bondo. Yeah, puts it in Bondo to get the shape, and then he'll just take the thing and go through the shape of that and copies it right into the wood. So, if you have the setup, that's just a piece of equipment, but
Yeah.
I don't wanna go that way.
It's not a stone, that's why I am.
Okay.
Okay, so do we like the cascading this with a stone?
But
A rock?
I'll be damned if it's not a stone.
A rockstonian?
Yeah.
It's a rock. It's a rock.
It makes it more stable, makes it more substantial looking, because you got a heavy rock down there. This is a pretty heavy tree looking up here.
No, I guess I remembered it wrong. I found the picture, but now I remember it wrong.
They seem a little long to me. That may just be the legs are a little short.
Exactly, could be, right?
Because if you look at,
Is the dowel making process difficult?
no. It depends on the wood. I made my own dowels, but some wood, it legs to it.
Let's go to the big
This is a
one.
little shorter, the dowels are about the same.
Yeah, that looks a lot more imposing
So
there.
it's a little bit different just because of the height of the stand and the way it goes together.
I really
Also,
like that.
putting them evenly spaced, putting them paired, that changes the look. You can do it threes.
Oh, yeah, you're right, they're spaced differently, yeah.
Spaced a little bit, so. All right, where are we going?
Big boy.
A little bit more.
Oh, if anybody cares, it's mine, the two Dodgers.
I don't care if they beat the Padres.
Padres beat themselves.
That's true.
Sorry, kid.
How's that look? Too big of a stand, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to something that has the same kind of legs.
No zing.
Don't grab it. I don't wanna break it, because I'm gonna buy it.
Then you buy it.
Quick run with it.
Fits better in size. Also, the red in this helps it, excuse me, the red in this helps it stand out a little bit better in contrast with the bright green foliage. So there's all these things to consider, not just the pot, but it's also the foliage, because I think graphic, so it's got a little bit deeper.
Can we see
The
it
shape
with
of this
the-
pot also
the dowels?
mirrors the legs.
For sure.
I was reading your mom.
There's a, yeah, that's what I wanted to see too. I like that better.
Yeah, that's good, that's good.
Now remember, when you guys are looking at a stand, you're not sitting down. Stand up and look at it. It looks totally different.
It just looks like
Nobody else.
Not all at once.
posing or-
People are like, I'm too comfortable.
After eating, yeah.
I like looking under the skirt, come on. It's structure, what are you talking about?
So change it just a little bit.
She's over here, there's all this.
That's not bad.
Does that make any difference? Between these two, a little bit shorter,
They're talking.
pretty much the same design.
How about the lower one? The stocky lower ones?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Too low.
Too low? That's become more of the opinion for a lot of these low stands, they just aren't, they aren't trending anymore.
Yeah, not trend, yeah. I don't know. See that back there? Yeah, the one,
This one?
Maybe it was too long, but yeah, that's.
Well, we can shorten
Not that way. I like this delicate stand, but it's my preference.
That was the first one you said you didn't like.
Sideways.
Yeah.
Now, it's smaller.
Yeah.
Need more substantial legs. Lift it up a little bit more than this, a little higher than this one.
Yeah.
So basically you say this wood, but this height.
You should take more of those. Then those low.
I can't store as many of these. This takes up the space of about 4 of those, so. I have limited storage space. What I tell people is I don't want to sell stands. I like to make stands. But I have a limited storage space, so I have to sell them or I don't get any rotation through. I can't make more if I don't have anywhere to put them. So big stands like this, I don't like to make too many of them, just because I don't have anywhere to put it.
Convert your living room.
Yeah, my wife would love that. Now, what I do tell people too, is if you're buying a stand and you're spending a lot of money on it, to put it in the garage for 363 days a year and bring it out for the 2 or 3 days that you're gonna do a show. That's a lot of money for something that's going to be stored. Bring it out and put it on your living room table. Now, something like this, maybe not, but something like this, put it on your living room table. Put a flower pot on it, do it as a centerpiece. So use it, actually, matter of fact, now, this is not my stand anymore. I sold it to Steve Riley, but while I had it, and I was keeping it for him for a while, while I had it, it sits up on top of our piano. And we have pictures on it and flowers on it, and my wife takes care of that, and she loves it. And she gets real upset when I have to take it away. Because it's like, I'm getting used to that being there. So it's nice to have these things somewhere besides just in your garage. Also, your garage is best. I've had a few stands split because garages get really hot and really cold, so that change in temperature. One of the things woodworkers will agree on, probably not the only thing all woodworkers agree on, is wood moves. Wood will expand and go back. And if you have it in a place that gets really hot and really cold, especially from day to night, and there's not a lot of insulation, you can start getting some of the joints will separate. So having it in your house is a little better for that because it keeps it a little bit more of a stable environment. Kelly, you have a question?
Can we see it on the red stand?
This?
Yeah.
Which one?
The fruit.
Hold on, we're still on the California.
Oh.
We're still on the California.
Sorry.
I said, don't ever. Okay, Jonathan, that's your tree. What do you think as far as we're working on that?
What do I think? I haven't really actually thought about what type of stand for that tree yet. Actually, that's why I brought it.
Do you like the legs? Do you want?
I'm still kind of noodling on it. It does need to have some power because it has, relatively some girth in the trunk, but it can't be
too super masculine. I don't feel like the tree is not masculine, so it's gotta be something in between the two. I think the height on this stand is pretty good.
So more like this stand? Is this not as?
Yeah, maybe that.
See, there's
right?
another
Maybe
thing
that
about
one's
the
higher.
masculinity too. This is pretty much a square edge.
You mean
I
taller?
rounded it slightly.
Taller, yeah.
This is routed underneath, so it looks a lot thinner, even though it's not any thinner, actually.
Really?
It's thinner around the edges. So it gives it a little bit lighter look.
Yeah, that was taller,
Yeah.
right?
Sorry, yeah, so I want something taller, right,
Yeah,
the one on the
taller,
left.
as tall as this.
Maybe even a
Maybe even
tad
taller
bit
than
taller
that.
than that, I don't know. I kinda have to mock it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Just maybe an inch more, I don't know, like,
You can't
yeah,
step
I'll
on
mock
top.
it up at home and I'll see what feels right. Maybe even the one on
I
the
was
kind
gonna say,
of back right
that
over
black
there.
one?
Maybe that's a little too tall.
Well, let's see.
So I don't know if
Yeah, check
a
that
floating
photo.
top would be best for this tree, maybe not. I have no idea. So this has been.
Well, this is what we're kinda,
See, it's always visual. You can think about it and think about it, but once you see it, it makes a difference.
Yeah. So to me, it feels a little bit tall.
Now, what I like about this is, like I said, I used to make,
Yeah, you need something a little bit more elegant.
I made my floating tops that started with dowels in the front. So I decided to start making one that's truly floating. Now, you are all sitting down, so you see the dowels here. But if you're standing up and you're looking at this, you don't see these two dowels on these two sides, and it truly floats. There's nothing inside.
Yeah,
And it really gives you a neat feeling of it as a floating top.
that's what they call it, yeah. You don't see that.
The color of the wood, does that work? Or do you like it more like the red one that we have?
Yeah, so,
Too many
I
variations.
think I do, I don't know, like I need time with it, I need to take a picture of it. If it's too red, right, you don't want it the same color as kinda this red, the pot, right, with it having a little bit, a tint of red, you don't want it to match too much.
This is probably too small.
Sure,
The color's nice though.
right, so you wanna, I feel like you want a little.
That's
bit
not
of-
quite as red as the other one,
Correct,
but
It looks nice though.
yeah, the color looks better, right, a little bit.
It does look.
Huh?
but I got a question, Lindsay, you can help us with this.
For now?
If we did something like this, which dark and dark, if you added a different color, like a lighter colored red stand, would that take your eye away from the darkness of that stand? Do you think, like if we did a redder stand?
Accent? You mean for accent?
Yeah, for accent?
Well, yeah, you want each stand to be contrasted.
Yeah.
You don't want the same color.
Yeah,
in-
so would that kinda help balance that out?
Or the same shape.
You look for something to ground,
Actually,
either
the accent should be on this side.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Technically.
You asked, Mike.
set yourself up.
The stove.
Or like a lighter color wood, I forgot that was another
Yeah.
See,
thing.
and the
achievement.
accent should be the lowest plane, so
Yeah.
it should be,
On Earth,
flat.
yeah.
Not-
But would, so you wouldn't, what if you did a 3-point display? What I'm asking is if you had a different color, this is so similar.
Dark and dark.
Dark and dark. Could you get away with putting something lighter there to take away from the dark on dark?
No,
No?
those should contrast, the pod and the stand should.
These two should contrast.
Cause you wanna highlight the trees.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it probably should be a lighter wood,
Yeah.
Okay, so there's more red.
not red, but
Okay.
a lighter.
I don't have, well, I
Yeah.
have this one, but it's way too thin for that.
Don't wanna
Okay.
break it.
It won't break the color.
I know a guy can fix it.
For a price. Way too thin.
No, but the color.
What color, Mike? Color.
Yeah, that's nice.
Something more stout, but in the same colors. Yeah.
This is a little bit more, same problem, it's still a little small.
And you know, the reason why you raised it up is so that you could, the plane of the foliage
Yeah,
goes
comes down to about
you know, close to the table that way. If it's too low, then
Yeah.
your accent's too close in.
some
This
combo,
is coming
a
down.
number of different ones.
Probably a little bit more.
It's super helpful though, cause then, now I'm thinking about what I have at home, it's like, oh yeah, okay, now I have a rubric in which to kind of think of it from, like, color, how narrow, spindly the legs are versus, there's some things I got, and I hadn't really had enough time to really think about it, but this really helps me visualize it, cause I can take all of these little things home in my brain and be like, oh yeah. I can just work.
And my teacher always, long before I was making pots, he would say, one tree, one stand. So you have a tree, you make a stand for that tree and that pot, and that is it. You don't have a stand that you use in different times for different trees. In other words, this tree is made, or this stand is made for this pot and this tree. One tree, one stand. If you have another tree, you make another stand for it, just like what you're talking about. You might need a color change. So, yeah, that becomes if you have, like Peter was talking about, you have 10 or 12 trees you want to show, you have 10 or 12 stands.
Yeah, chairs and stands. Okay, next let's start on the,
But I like the idea of one tree, one stand, so you have to buy more stands.
Yeah. Where do you put them all?
That's your problem.
Under your bed.
Just to add that to it, I make boxes for the stands. So I make boxes to store stands in, especially with a stand like this, because some stands, the legs, at least with this one, it has a frame that holds it together. These legs are pretty substantial, but these legs, the only thing's holding it together is a little tiny miter right here. You put any pressure on that, you're gonna break it. So I make boxes for them to help protect them.
That's more expensive than a stand.
Yes. Depends on how much you like the stand. But, and I will make boxes for stands that I haven't made a stand, just because some people might have a stand. Yeah, it's been scratched or it's been bumped a little bit. I'd like to do some protection, so I will make boxes as well.
And you can put stands inside of stands.
Yeah, you can put stand in, you can nest them.
Okay, let's go with the pomegranate next.
On what?
On any of those, let's choose.
Here's the problem with this. We got a round pot and almost all of my stands are rectangles.
Wait a minute, I remember how it goes. It's not my stand.
It might be.
No, I already got one.
It might be if you do something to it.
It's recorded. You pay me, Mike.
And I tell people when I make this stand, you get two stands in one because it really does look different without the frame. It changes the whole feel of it. It's much more formal with the frame on it.
Hey, Mike, grab that other stand.
That looks good, huh?
Yeah.
Cause I was thinking that stand doesn't go with anything, but goes with that one.
And that's
So
what
the curved legs with the curve, it sort of adds to the curve.
And the color and the pomegranates.
And the color, yeah.
Could you take the bottom off?
Yeah, just to see how the difference.
You couldn't have done that before when it was off.
No. No, Mike, no.
Yeah, I like without the bottom.
I like it without the bottom.
And it depends. It depends on the tree that goes with it.
Two bucks like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That stand and put the pomegranate on that stand. I can iron both of these combos all night tonight, and I wanna see how they look.
Oh, yeah, the difference.
Oh, that's nice.
That nice too, actually.
It brings out the red of the,
Are the legs too thin for the tree?
that's all right.
Yeah, I think
Oh, wait. Let's record this.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Luckily, he didn't.
Want to
drop
show
the
what
stand.
happened?
No, I don't want anybody to know. I hope,
If you, he did break it, it's easy to fix. If you would have dropped the stand, that might have been a bigger problem.
Yeah, it looked better without the bottom anyway.
The person that's buying it might not feel that way.
I agree. It looked better without the bottom. It did look better.
Whose phone is it?
Fine.
Done, it's done.
So we like this?
I like the color, I don't think it's the right stand, but
Yeah, I don't think it's right stand with the legs on it.
Surely.
No, that one right there, right
in the middle.
That one, yeah.
Yeah,
That might be the right one for that.
yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
It's a little less, now, this is mahogany, so it's a little more orange, this is a little more muted, I guess. The root is a little more red, so they all, I think the red on this would be too much for the red in these.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I like that
Okay.
Alright, so did we decide on that one?
one. Which one did you win? Break it up. Which one you want?
Who owns the tree? It's what they decide. So you like that, this stand?
What can you do to make that better?
I was thinking of going with the rounded edge.
The broken one?
Yeah, but I think it's the
Yeah,
same.
yeah.
The broken one?
With the frame.
One like this, but
I like it.
I'll sell it to you, I just bought it. Oh, much better without this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
that's nice.
That's for sure.
It's like a spider, like a
It's the
spider.
whole, yeah, I was just gonna say, the whole thing is coming
Like
down.
a spider.
It looks like the encounter at the LAX airport.
It kind of flows with the pomegranates.
Or then it Beetlejuice and it starts walking.
Yeah, it kind of flows with
The
that.
middle is that, yeah.
So, right.
It does, it matches.
That's why, without the food, wouldn't be the same.
But even without the fruit on it, it the color of the foliage and the pot, everything seems just right.
Okay.
And that's
And
just
right,
like-
Shirley, that's a Dick Ryson pot, right?
Right.
It's gorgeous.
Yes.
Okay.
Does anybody here do kintsugi? Great, I do. So if you have broken pots that you really gotta have, bring it to me and I'll.
You fix stands?
Oh, with the gold?
You fixed it. You fixed it.
Gold or silver, whatever you like.
How about
Yeah.
copper?
24.
Yeah, I can probably find copper powder.
We don't have one.
What do you think?
Yeah, bring it.
And
And,
drink that,
yeah, it's about 3 or 4 months to there.
A little bit more?
Try it on the darker color.
Yeah. Don't drop this.
Again.
Again.
You can't buy it twice, can you?
On this one?
I'm afraid to touch any of the stands.
Luckily, you understand that removable parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice metal.
No, it's too big, but. How's that?
I think the legs are too strong for that tree.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, they're bigger than the trunk.
Yeah.
So we'd like something to have thinner legs for it, something like this.
Like a regular.
What about this?
That's not okay.
nice
A little bit
contrast.
more substantial on the crossbars, the legs are a little thinner. Okay, the light edge would work.
Maybe that's not a rough enough tree for that.
We didn't get into ooh factor right from anybody, so no, it's not very good.
It's too small there. Stand.
Flip my crossbar.
Oh, my God.
Any better? So all of these,
How about the floating?
the floating tops of dust.
See, what are they? Interesting. Kind of like it, but it's kind of
What if I made this out of this wood? sets off more with the pot. and the
Yeah,
white
but
leaves.
if you can make that color.
I can't.
You do anything.
No, we go that far.
Well,
That's perfect.
Okay. Whose tree is this? Oh, okay. Something to think about.
whose tree was it?
It was, yes.
Yeah, that's the last tree.
Whose tree is that?
I don't know. Whose tree is this?
That's mine.
Oh, never mind. It's a boxwood.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
What do you think? It loses the floating top when I do this. Too tall?
Yeah.
I don't have much to do with thicker legs. Taller?
No, that's perfect. Well, stand up. Remember, you guys gotta, you know, you're not gonna sit down and look at it.
Keep staying.
Maybe somebody stands up.
Now, that's just to raise it up a little bit, sort of the same kind of legs. Would you like more of the flared legs or legs more like that?
I like the thickness of that leg, but with the flare of the one on the right. I like it a little bit darker, so I like the contrast.
Darker like this one or darker like this?
Like the one in the middle.
So you still want sort of red?
It just gives contrast with the dark and then the white. A lot of that white part is kind of coming out. But I do like the thicker flare.
Remember all those variables that you want with it.
Yeah, the height is definitely better on the left.
On this one? Yeah, you probably want to lift it up a little bit more.
Because when I'm standing on it, it will look about 2/3 of the way up. It's such a tall tree, and I'm
Now, remember also is, at least with our club, we put tables on risers, so they're lifted up or maybe about that much taller, so this would all be a little bit higher. I don't know if you do at Baikoen,
No, we don't.
you don't lift them up anymore, so this is.
Santa Anita does.
Santa Anita does.
Yeah, they have their tables.
So it depends on where you're showing it, it might rise it up enough. I don't know if you got it too high and then got it on a tall table, would that get it? Then this starts, I think we talked about one time, where you get the top of the tree starts to stand behind the, get to the top of the backdrop, and that becomes a problem too. So there's all these things. Okay, I guess we're running out of time.
We pegged it. Perfect timing. Does anybody else bring trees that we haven't shown yet?
Over here? What do you point at, Josh?
Yeah, I think there's a couple on that table.
Those were just examples of let's see.
Just my box.
This one? Your boxwood? Where's your boxwood? This one? Okay. You wanna use that as consider that an accent plant or? Okay, and this is whose?
Back here.
Oh, Sonda's, okay. Well, let's go to smaller stands. Ken, let's match these two stands and then we'll be done.
Everybody got their tickets in for the raffle?
Yeah. Everybody got tickets in?
This almost came off too.
Don't break that one.
Oh, here we go again, Mike. Here we go again.
I like them, but not that much.
You know how many stands you're gonna end up with at the end of the night?
I know.
Start here.
Okay.
Little much for the pot.
Yeah.
It's wider than a cookie.
No. No.
Running out of stands. Shorter. This doesn't have a finish on it, but it's much more the size we're talking about.
Look, it's two-point display.
There you go.
Well, would you be using that as an accent plant or a second plant?
That's probably too small, it starts to become.
Right.
And somebody, I think you were talking to me about it, you know, a lot of shows, you have big monster trees, you know, something like this as a display, it's just disappears. By comparison with all the other shows.
All right. Wrap it up, Joe.
Okay.
You wanna see it on this now?
No, I'm good.
You good? Okay. Okay, any more questions? Thank you, Ken.
It took a while, but we finally started getting all of it, part of it.
Any Mets fans?
What was the final
We
score?
don't need to know
10-2.
anymore.
They're New York, right?
They're New York. They play one more game in New York. If they win, they sweep in New York and they win the NLCS in New York. If not, they'll come back to LA for a game.
Oh, it's a 2-2-1-1?
2-3-1-1.
Okay.
Yeah, no, 2, and then the 3 in the next. No, 2,
No,
3, 2, 2.
Yeah, 3. Yeah.
All right. Ken.
This is too much. And see, this is trying to cut.